correctly. So I'm going to go back to my UI. Well, first let me show you Shiny Themes. So Shiny Themes is a really cool, the default theme for a Shiny app is just the default Bootstrap theme, if you're familiar with like, I think this is CSS stuff. So you can use the Shiny Themes package. It comes pre-built with this. You can see this whole grid of themes, and you can try the themes out in your app and then choose the one you want. So the way we do this is first, of course, you'll want to do install.packages Shiny Themes if you don't already have it. So go ahead and do that. I have it, so I'm not going to reinstall it. And one of the things I really love, and this is what I love, I don't know, programming is just so cool, guys. If you go into your UI, I like to do it at the top above the title. We can do a call to Shiny Themes, and it actually comes right up, Theme Selector. Make sure you put a comma after that because it's a thing in your UI. So I'll save that. Let me run the app, and I'll show you what that did. I love the theme selector. So now you can see we have this pop-up in the corner, select theme. So let's start to go through them. Cerulean makes everything blue. Cosmo, cool font. Cyborg becomes dark background. You can start to, you can flip through these. Darkly has green text and green highlight text, dark background. I love that they do this because now you can click through and see them all, and you don't have to go change the line of code every single time. It just makes life so wonderful and delightful. So you can flip through, and once you have a theme that you like, I don't really have a go-to. I tend to play around and just feel how we're gonna feel that day. I think I'm feeling sandstone today, but feel your heart, feel for you. Then I can go back into my UI. I'm just gonna comment out the Shiny Themes, the theme selector line, in case I wanna play around with it later. Now I can do Shiny Themes, Shiny Theme, and then I just have to tell it what theme I've chosen, which I said sandstone. Follow your dreams. Make sure to include that comma, critical. And now if I rerun my app, it is not sandstone because I did that wrong. So let's go back and do it right. Shall we? Oh, it's just theme equals. I have to do theme equals. Great. We all make mistakes. So you do have to specify theme equals Shiny Themes, Shiny Theme, or as you saw, it just becomes text at the top of your app. So now we're sandstone. It's fancy, and I like it. It makes me feel fancy. Big fan of that. One thing, and this was actually a recent discovery, I forgot to list it here, but I made a recent discovery that depending on, especially if you use R Markdown, you probably have at least some familiarity with HTML. You can actually use HTML tags inside of a Shiny app. And one way I like to do that is to break up my inputs, especially if my inputs have to do with different outputs. So for here, my slider input, of course, goes for my GDP plot. My checkbox input goes to that shares plot. So I want to divide that up. So I'm going to, at the top of my sidebar panel, because the things you put in your sidebar panel are going to appear in order, if you hadn't already noticed that. I don't think I said it explicitly. I'm going to use tags, $, and then you can use different HTML tags. I'm going to use a 4th level header because I've already programmed this, so I know that I like the size of a 4th level header best. And I'm going to call it GDP plot inputs, and then put in this comma, and then I'll show you what this looks like. So now it tells you these are for the GDP plot inputs, this year selector. Where this becomes useful is if I go down between the slider input and the checkbox input and put another fourth level header called GDP sectors inputs. Let's be standard and capitalization. Great. So now I can see really easily that this corresponds with my GDP plot. This corresponds with my GDP sector. I might even want to change that to be sector shares, just to be like completely transparent with my user. I really like, this was, like I said, a very recent discovery for me, but I think it really can break up a sidebar really nicely and can help with usability of your app right out of the gate. Okay, so cool. We have time to build a reactive expression, which I would love to do with you because I think it's kind of important and cool to see. So the use case here would be that years slider right now only affects our first graph. We right now have it only changing our growth rate of the GDP. But we do have a set of years on our second graph. So we could change it so that this year input selector affects both graphs. Obviously, we absolutely could go in to this. In fact, I'm just going to copy it because it'll make my life so much simpler, although we don't need the year not equal to 2008. We could go into the shares plot and add that filter year greater than or equal to input $years1 and the year less than or equal to input $years2. And we could include a pipe so that this will actually work. We absolutely could do that. It will absolutely work. So now our years, if we flip here, you can see that it's only by default 2010 to 2012, and we can create more. But now we're doing a couple things that we maybe don't want to do, which we hear over and over again with programming: don't repeat yourself, the dry principle. And we've repeated this computation, which for this, it's only 10 years, but in a bigger app with more data, could be computationally really expensive. So the solution is to write a reactive function. So we'll figure out what we're going to call it here in a second. So my year function. I like to make things really explicit. So I'm going to call it filter years. I'm going to put it inside of a call to reactive. That's letting it know that that's letting Shiny know that I'm building a reactive function. Blessedly, we have already written this code. It's just the lines Tunisia, filter with the inputs. So I can just go copy it. I don't like to rewrite code if I don't have to, personally. So here's my reactive function. Also, if this does not work, I have not tried this yet. So we're all along for the ride together. My reactive function will take the Tunisia data set, which I import here, and will filter for the different years. So now let's go back into GDP plot and do Tunisia filter years. Whoop, I ran it, don't do that. I'm gonna assign it to something called Tunisia filtered. And then I'm going to spell that correctly. I use Tunisia filtered, and of course I remember not equal to 2008, which I'm actually going to do that first. Sorry, guys. Oh, okay. Whew, I should have pre-written this. You don't need to do Tunisia filter years. You just need to do filter years because it's already written into there. That's why. Okay. Year not equal to 2008. Great. Okay, so I'm going to give a second, stop here, let everybody catch up. So my filter years function already takes the Tunisia data set and filters for my year inputs. Great. Then I can, down inside of a render plotly function, I said that you've got to call a reactive function in a reactive context. And in this case, a render function is a reactive context. I can call the filter years function to create Tunisia filtered. It's going to automatically filter for my years. I think it'll just do this. So let's comment out that line of code and I'll stop being paranoid. Let's make sure that it worked and I didn't crash anything. Because we might have. Oh, bless. We didn't crash anything. I'm proud of us. I'll be honest. So this does the exact same thing that it did before, but we've done it inside a reactive function. And just like in the GDP plot, we can go down to the shares plot, do the same thing, and then use Tunisia filtered and do the rest of all the code that we already wrote. So now we've used a reactive function. We don't have to repeat ourselves. I don't usually do this, but I learned how to do Shiny a lot from actually aforementioned Ramnath Vaidyanathan, who wrote the HTML widgets package. And often what he'll do, which you, I froze for a minute. Did you lose me? Okay, I think we're okay. One thing Ramnath will do to remind himself that things are reactive values is he'll actually name these functions with RV on the front, reactive value, and then name the function. So that's an option. I don't usually do it, but it is a thing you can do. So now let's run this and make sure that it worked on both plots. I didn't crash anything. I didn't. Look at that. So now you've used a reactive function. Lots of different applications for reactive functions, certainly. This was just one example for code we don't want to repeat that could be expensive computationally if this data set were bigger, etc. So now, I have to be honest, for, hour and 20, we've built a pretty cool app, and hopefully the basic ideas of just input, output, and really basic reactivity are here from my mouth to your brain. They're also in the slides, and of course all this code exists, and I will push the live app that I just built also live. I did want to talk about, because it's just really important to me, some of the resources. I did already talk about the RStudio Shiny website, but the other thing I want to talk about is Mastering Shiny, which is a book that Hadley Wickham is writing right now. It's going to be released on paper by O'Reilly Media in late 2020, but as he's writing it, he's been posting it online for feedback. So like you will sometimes see things where like he'll talk about something and he'll reference, we'll get to this later in chapter XYZ, because again, it's a draft. But it's really helpful, and it's, if you've read any of his other books, R for Data Science, what he wrote with Garrett Grellemond, Advanced R, it's got these great sections of code. It's got just so many examples, really great notes if you want to dig deeper. I really love Mastering Shiny. I used it when I was writing this workshop. I used it in a lot of other places. I really like it. And then don't be afraid to just Google things. While I was building this, this is just a very incomplete list of the things that I Googled, some of which you saw me Google live. I absolutely know how to build a Shiny app, and I still love to check every time and look in the gallery, I actually, before I wrote this, did not know how to specifically build those options for a data table in a Shiny app. I only knew how to do it like in R Markdown or a Flex dashboard. So really great. I Googled literally DT options in a Shiny app. It took me to Stack Overflow. There was a great post that showed me how to do it. Google. And just because I brought it up a couple times, I actually just gave a talk on this. It's also on my GitHub. I gave it last week on how to use Flex dashboards, how to get those up and running. If you don't know what a Flex dashboard is you can build a Shiny app using an R Markdown document. They're really cool. if you know how to use our Markdown, it's a really great way to just build an app quickly from a document. The talk that I gave a week ago, which I encourage you to go look at, it's recorded and it'll be on the Our Ladies YouTube soon. It talks about how to use Flex dashboards for prototyping. So when you're working with a stakeholder and you want to build a dashboard and you want to get something to them quickly, really iterate on what the app should look like, a great way to do that is to use Flex dashboard because it's fast for certain changes that you might want to make. And then that's that. I would love to answer questions. We definitely still have some more time. I will do my best with questions. I am absolutely not an expert in this, but as you can see, I can build a thing.